So yeah, if you just to make sure, like in the airline, they announced that this flight, where this flight is going, this one is this webinar is about GA4. If you're expecting something else, then maybe you're in the wrong webinar. This is the time to get off before we take off here. And with comments, how many of you just kind of are looking to do? How many of you are doing something, anything with GA4? Anybody? So yeah, we do talk about PPC. In this case, behind the scenes PPC requires the analytics to work. Yes, I see that. Matt is using it for some clients, starting to explore it. Yeah, trying to figure it out. So hopefully we will give you a little bit of a shifting. Awesome. Yeah, some of you want to learn about it. I think we will cover all of those bases. We will basically, if you have no clue, you will get an idea. As long as you know something about Google Analytics, you will learn something about GA4. And if you're already in the middle and transitioning, you will get hopefully a little bit robust infrastructure, how to make sure that everything is right. We'll try to cover that too. And if you're in between trying to figure this out, that'll work too. All right, let's get into it. Yeah, this is, I have this all the time. Irreverent marketer is what, if you're looking at for me on LinkedIn, that's where you'll find me. InvisiblePPC.
You have to share your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's where I was wondering, I was talking to myself and not sharing. All right. Screen looking all right?
All
okay.
Good.
All right. So let's move to this. Yeah, so irreverent marketer is the tag I like to go with because I like to question things. And InvisiblePPC is what I'm speaking here for, of course. And of course, the other agency we have is Kuver. I'm going to skip this. You guys can look at it in the slides. But basically, InvisiblePPC is a white label PPC agency. Kuver is the parent company of InvisiblePPCs, more into e-commerce strategy and kind of standard agency business, fractional CMO, etc. Right? So we will, what we'll cover today, we'll talk about why and when. We will talk about differences, and it's I think, an exhaustive list of differences, and what you need to prepare, how to switch, and a quick checklist we'll go through. All right. So we set everybody on the same page and get this little history. Whenever you see the term GA, it's the general term Google Analytics. UA is Universal Analytics, and we'll talk about those. So when I see UA, stands for Universal Analytics. GA360, we'll not talk much about it, but say paid version of analytics. So if you are using that, probably you're not in this webinar. So it's the cost for that is 12,500 plus per month to use GA360, right? Because which means usually there'll be a consultant associated with it and many other things, right? And in fact, GA brings some of the GA360 stuff free to the GA world, to the analytics world. Some of the stuff you'll notice, we'll talk about it, which used to be only available for 360 is available now under new GA. GA1 was the classic analytics. The way you would probably know is the script was ga.js, JavaScript library. That's the library they use. GA2 moved to analytics.js. And then GA3 was when they forced everybody, you had to upgrade to jtag.js JavaScript library, UA. That's what, when we talk about UA right now, everybody is on GA3. And that GA1, 2, and 3 are not necessarily official terms, but those are generation terms to emphasize the differences. GA4 is the official term. So just gives you a context, what's going on. GA4 also uses the same library, but it's a completely new model of measurement, very different than GA3. But it uses internally, it does use the same library underneath. Moving on. 1 second here. Just opening up chat and Q&A. Yeah. All right. So why and when? So July 1st, 2023 is when you will stop collecting all data. What that means is, after that, if you're still using GA3 or Universal Analytics, from that date onwards, there'll be no more new data, only old data only. So if you're not changed over that time, then it'll be a big problem. But here is something to consider. The analytics is very useful. Analytics is not something you look ahead, you look behind, you want to look back. And at least 12-month window is essential. Why? Because if you are looking for seasonality in the business, that's what tells you the seasonality that is in winter months, if it is doing better or summers are better for that business, you need at least 12 months of data. So if you go with that, which means that by July 1st, 2021, you should change. Otherwise, you will not have the seasonal data at all for the business. So that's what I consider the drop dead date. Before that, otherwise some things will be missing when the window comes. So even though if any of you are thinking, oh, I have time, but keep in mind the historical data will be gone, will not be available. So you'll have gap in data, which makes a lot of analysis very difficult, right? So just so July 1st, the dates to remember is July 1st, 2022. Before that, get GA4N if possible. And after July 1st, 2023, you will not be able to collect any data. Okay, and so let's talk about generally big direction and big picture of what's happening. So Universal Analytics, the approach was configuration, collection, and reporting. Everything was in GA3. You went to Universal Analytics, you set the goals, you set everything one place, right? GA4, they are saying use best of the breed for these three different things. There is an overlap for sure. You can do certain things within the GA4 versus doing in the tag manager, and you can get some reporting, for example. But in general, Google wants you to go to is do all the configuration through Google Tag Manager. The data collection is done by that script, which is there. And finally, to actually do the reporting, they are pushing everybody towards Google Data Studio for reporting. And it just does make sense because these are specialized tools, especially the first and last. The middle one becomes just a script, which is there on the website. But really, the first and last are specialized tools which allow you to control configuration in a much better fashion. And Google Data Studio is really, if you have not been using it till now, you should be using it. We use it for all our PPC ads, also in addition to analytics. That's how we report all our PPC ad data with Google Data Studio. So that's a one big change there if you look at the big picture. The other changes, just continuing with that, is UA is sessions-based model. GA4 is event-based model. Everything is an event. So a click is an event. How long you stay on the page, event. How much you scroll, event. Everything is an event. You can take those discrete events and you can build a scenario of any kind. But the model is event-based, the way the data is collected. The other big difference is, which might or might not impact you guys, is GA4 goes cross-domain and platform. So cross-domain was a little bit of a problem, which is completely not there with GA4, and platform, which is even more important. So if you have a user who uses your app, then goes to the website, earlier there were two different discrete collections of data. Now it's all one. It'll flow from one place to the other. Based on the events, you'll be able to follow the client through, the user through what's happening across the platforms. So basically, app and web are treated as one. That's a big deal. So the cross-domain platform, all one. So again, the client-side pixel part is one other thing, which was like a thing which we got relied on. And then, of course, iOS 14 update happened and everybody panicked, and because the stuff is going away. So Google, of course, wants to push away the pixels too. So this relies on server-side events and signals. I mean, in simple terms, if you're wondering what the difference is, basically pixel is when you visit a site, it leaves a little breadcrumb. It gets your IP. And from that IP, it can associate who you are, whatever you do. They keep storing that data locally in that on that computer. And that's what can be accessed. So that's basically the pixel. Pixel is just kind of it just follows you what you did on that, and it keeps it on your computer, that information. And from there, it can detect who you are, where you came from. So that's the pixel approach. But if you disable or clear cache and go back, then it cannot track, right? That was already a problem, but most people don't clear cache, etc., or don't clear the pixel data on their side, cookies, basically. If you don't clear cookies, then it works. But if you clear cookies, that would have not worked anyway. This is server side. So the idea of server side is, in simple terms, is this, that whenever and anytime you interact with a website, your HTTP protocol is sending a request to the server. Any link you click, any page you scroll, the server has to deliver the data. So never mind how much privacy you have on your side, server can always detect the event. In fact, in some ways, if server doesn't want to honor any privacy, there is nothing you can stop server from doing, because you're actually telling the server, take me to the next page, take me to the next link, now do this, now scroll up, scroll down, right? When you do that, your browser is sending that event up the stream to the server. I need to move down, show me more data, and it records it. So it's really a more robust way of looking at things. And signals is between one platform to the other. What happens? You can signal that data that, hey, after clicking, they went and did this, right? So it's kept on the server, not on your local computer, right? So it's a more robust way of looking at things. So let's get into differences now. First thing, it tracks sessions. The GA3, if you've been using GA3, you're used to sessions and page views. Instead of that, it will track events. Events in this case could be beyond page views. It's like, did you scroll on the page? How much did you watch that video? So that's much better way of looking at it than just kind of a page view was not that robust way of looking at it, because they came to the page view, what did they do? How long did they stay? There were ways around to track that, but now by default, it tracks the time on page and how much you went down the page, etc. Other thing it does is it takes the event, and with the event, you can pass parameters. These are sub-definitions of what happened with the event. Was it time, what duration, what part of the event you want to capture? So that's controlled by the parameters for the events. So it's a variable with a sub-variable, if you will, for the parameters for those events. So different approach. Of course, the other tracking ID numbers. So I think I have it backwards, and Justin had pointed that out. I have them backwards. So if you are watching this carefully, you will know the tracking is backwards. Sorry, I missed that. I'll fix it before we send the slides out. Then in UA, we are used to views, and we used to recommend to everybody you should have at least three recommended views. One was the raw view, one is the filtered view, and the other one, any special thing you want to do. So at least 3, but many times we had many views. There is no views, but there are data streams you can build. You can effectively get that concept of filtering, but you cannot store and save views. One of the things bad about the views was there's no data. There was no past data. It only captured data after views were set. So the views are not supported anymore in GA4. So how does the event tracking work on UA? So there was separate categories, some actions happened, and there was a value associated with that. Here, simplified, everything is event, the name and the parameter associated with that. So a lot more flexible and simplified version, right? There was no event tracking automation. By that, I mean is you had to specifically go and set up the events you want to track. There was nothing tracked automatically. In GA4, some events are, and which kind of was pain that, hey, you forgot to set it up and now you're looking for the event, you cannot find it. Some basic events in GA4 are automatically tracked. They're always there. The other big difference is user and event data retention. There were a lot of options on GA on the UA side. I'm going to use UA more because GA gets mouthful and confusing. Probably UA versus GA4. UA, these were the options. When we go to the data retention for GA4, it's just 2 options, 2 or 14 months only. Unless you have a privacy policy which requires you not to keep lesser data, I would recommend always choose the 14-month. Because 14-month, again, think about that seasonality, gives you enough window to look at what happened in last 14 months. Of course, there is ways around if you really want to download all your data. You can download, there are third-party tools which can keep the data longer. But the GA infrastructure will only keep it for 14 months. E-commerce, over the years, UA had become very good at e-commerce tracking. GA is still not that great at e-commerce. So this will be something we will see over the time will come. It's just not enough. So you can't basically abandon GA3 at this time, especially if you're in e-commerce, there is no way. You got to keep GA around for now. Cross-device and platform, there are ways to do it. So it was kind of okay, but of course, as I talked about, this is designed from ground up for that. So this is absolutely amazing for GA is absolutely amazing on that. Right. So we're used to this bounce rate. Bounce rate was very, very confusing. In case of a landing page, I mean, that's one of the things when you do Google ads and all, what is the bounce rate? We don't want them to go anywhere, right? So it's always 100% bounce, correct? Unless you have a thank you page, of course, then probably it went there. So it's what about that? Like, so it's really bad? No, we don't want them to leave. So there was all this kind of situation. GA4 is engagement rate. So it's basically, it says how long you stayed on the page, how much you went down the page, much more meaningful, better metric than bounce rate. Attribution model is, you got to work around it. There was a good attribution model in UA. There's no attribution model here, but there are, because of the events and other ways of tracking, you can get to it. There is no dimensions anymore. There are the parameters with each event. No custom metrics. Everything is event and parameter. So parameter, you could call it custom if you wanted to think it that way. There was no debugging available in UA. There is a debugging mode in GA4, so you can see what happened, where things were breaking down if things were not set right. I think that's very, very powerful and very useful. IP anonymization was an option in UA. You could choose to track or not track. So it should be, so in this case, we would, I'm sorry, I got distracted by the question there. That's why I think there, but I think the questions will, some of those will get answered as we go along. So here it's forced. So IP, I mean, so security point of view, it's good for thing, and then we don't have to worry about it. It's automatically forced. So the access to big, oh, I've got the same thing from both sides. So it's actually, you have it for the BigQuery access is available in GA4. You can directly access BigQuery. Sorry about that, as a title. GA4, you can have BigQuery access, right? Now, which was only, unless you were a paid customer, you didn't have. BigQuery is basically, there are ways to parse your data and download all your data, much better way to do it than any, just not spreadsheet. There are many other ways to do that. So that's available. It's a little bit advanced work, but if you need that. And the advanced analysis was only for 360 customers. It's again available for everybody. Reporting interface, all I can say, it's very, very different. When looking at the interface, it's very, very different what it reports. That's where a Google Data Studio will probably build better interface for you, exactly how you want the report to be reported. And initially, if you go there, you're going to say, man, my traditional things I'm used to looking at, I don't have any of those in here, right? That's a feeling you get when you go in there. So this is a good time to look through. I'm going to look through questions for now and see I'm not going to address too much about GMB. There are changes, but it's not directly GA4 related. It doesn't track your IP. That was one question Adi asked. That there's
You might read the question again.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let me read the question. GMB, I'm not going to talk about. That was from John. Adil, the question was that it does not track your IP now. So no IP tracking. And then what is the default data ration? I don't know the default. I think I might have it or not. Is that 2 or 14? That's a question basically. I don't know the answer. Yeah, you can still use UTM. Yes, that's not a problem. Okay. I'm going to move from here. So first is the preparation for GA. There are a few things you should start looking at if you're not looking at it. If you're not using Google Tag Manager, which you should have been using even for UA, then that's first thing you need, because without that, it's just not going to work. Then if you don't have it, set up the tag manager. And if you were doing UA directly from the website, then add that UA to the tag manager. The existing UA code, add to the tag manager so you don't lose anything. Then of course, add the tag manager to the website. If you guys are not very familiar with tag manager is just think of it as a container. In that container, you can put any kind of a tracking code beyond GA, any UA, and that container is what you place on the website. Advantage of that is you can control, instead of looking at WordPress or how do I add more scripts to track and everything, you don't have to worry about it. They're all added. So other way I like to think of this container is, it is one master script, and it goes to the container and it calls all the scripts which are sitting in the container. So if you have 5 different tracking codes from retargeting, from Facebook, any of those pixels or whatever you want, they can all go in the tag manager. And when the tag manager gets called from the website, it goes and executes one script at a time. And you can also prioritize which one should execute first. So that's what tag manager is. So a centralized approach. It's great for most of the thing. One disadvantage is if you are used to searching on the web page for the code, tracking code, by looking at the source, you'll just not find any, because there'll be only tag manager code. So if you are not, the days before when you're not using tag manager, you could go and find all tracking codes, their numbers and everything. Now you're going to just see tag manager only. You cannot. The only way to check will be when the event fires, and if there is a debugger for that event, then only you can see it. You cannot see by the number whether it is installed or not. So you need the access to the tag manager to go in and see what all is working. And of course, as I said, if you are moving to the tag manager, you don't want to have it twice tracking. So you want the UA code removed and just put it in the tag manager, one place. The next thing you need to do is list all your business metrics. You might be wondering, okay, we are talking about GA4, this Google Analytics. What are we talking about listing business metrics? These are business metrics, not. So this is a common problem when people set up any kind of analytics. They approach analytics at, oh, I inserted the code, I'm done. Google will track it. Yeah, Google will track some things. You got to know what matters to your business. So you can set up the goals, targets, etc. for those metrics. That's very important. So this is something which should be undertaken for, even if you are setting GA3, you would need this, but you need that. The other thing which is new for GA4 is GA4, Google has some recommended defaults for every business type that you should collect these events. So they have those recommendations, absolutely follow those. Okay, and moving on. So create a GA4 property at that point. Once you have a GA property, add the GA4 to the tag manager. Important, very important. Some major big companies don't want, was in the news. No, was not in the news. It was behind the scenes. So I cannot name the companies. Big companies did the mistake. GA came, they said, oh, we don't need so they dropped the UA. So they lost data. And these are e-commerce companies selling millions of dollars online. They removed UA and they lost data. Do not remove UA. Keep UA around. This transition is a plan to get to GA4. And then finally, at some point when all the data is connected completely in GA4 and GA4 is fully capable, then you'll remove UA. So for now, you can get reporting from both, right? GA will start building its data for history and UA will be still around. And I will not be surprised if they extend the UA data collection. Google does that usually. So they might extend a few months later. After that, set up all the default events and the parameters which you have collected based on the business and otherwise. Also set up your Google recommended events for your business type. Any custom events you want to set up, this will be the time to do this. So here, when I'm going through this, it seems like, man, this is kind of a dry stuff. Just set up events, parameters, this. I will give you a cheat sheet as we come to it, where you can actually specifically, without knowing these terms, even if you have to Google search them, so you don't miss any of this, right? I just want this one to, you need to get a general idea that, hey, you got to get the business metrics. You got to set up the property. Do not remove UA. You know, that's the takeaway if you can remember here. Set it in the tag manager, get the GA in. Many times, a lot of people will say this, yeah, I've got GA in. All they have done is they added the GA4 to tag manager. That's not getting GA in, GA4 in. There's a lot more to it. So it's not just I added the code to the tag manager or to the website, oh, it's working. No, it's not. So let's break it down a little bit more. Pre-setup, gather business data, all the website data. What is website data? Website data is things like what forms will be filled, which pages matter. So that's the website data. And set up the business goals, have them listed before you actually go into the GA4. Then in the foundation, this is the actual mechanics of setup. You got, and there are things where if you leave it to default, you'll miss out on things. Those are the gotchas basically you got to watch out for, and you configure. And intermediate is what I call is that these are business insights based setups. Advanced, not needed for everybody. One of the things is being aware that everything is not ready in GA4. So if there is a workaround and there are some advanced settings, if you cover up to intermediate, and you will wonder what is in the intermediate, and we'll come to that in a minute, you're doing great. Some things of intermediate might not apply. Advanced for now, if you miss, it's okay. So the question is, what is the best way to set up and make sure that we didn't miss anything? So you need a functional checklist. What is a functional checklist versus the other checklist? So this is not a checklist of just you check. Each one is an actual activity arranged in an order. You have to do this first, second, third. If you go in that order, mostly if you follow the order, then you can be assured that you did not miss anything. So that's the idea of a functional checklist. So would you like to see a functional checklist now? This is the time to unveil the checklist. All right. So this is the checklist we would use if you are setting this up for anybody. And this is the same thing you can use to make sure that everything is done right. Still, my screen is working. Okay, everybody can see this? Still big enough font and everything?
Yes.
So I'm not going to read through every line by line here. It's 46, I think 46 or 46 items here. But I want to get you the mindset going through that what is happening here. So in the pre-setup, like I was talking about, you look through all website pages. Are you just tracking? You might want to track all pages for just fact they were visited. That's fine. But you are really looking for any special sections there, or there might be some things you don't want to track. Then look for all user interactions with the website. Where all on the site there's a form fill, download, video watching, browsing, special navigation going from one place to the other. These are events which you want to track, and those will tell you what's happening on your website. Anything which you call conversion. Macro is like, they just, okay, it's little action, just give you email address. Macro is actually something big, major happened. Either way, note all those down. This is before you're actually doing anything in the GA4, right? So if you have conversion navigational path, first they go to this page and you want them to go through this funnel, then they go to this page, then they go to the pricing page finally, and then they purchase. What is that path they will follow? Note that down. Set up some SMART goals, which are basically something which is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely goals for this. Number 6, if you are working with a client, very important, get an agreement on end client on the goals, values, and funnel pages and targets. This can avoid, especially for agencies, so many disputes. Tell them, this is what we're going to be tracking. This is what we are calling conversion. This is the goal. Is the purchase online a goal or a meeting is a goal? What is it? What do you want to do? Get the agreement from client beforehand. And then we're going into steps. Some of these steps are obvious and clean, like don't get rid of, keep analytics enabled. Then create the account. And then it goes down to a little bit more details. So as you run through each one of them, the way this checklist is done is some things will be so obvious, but even there, it might not be obvious. How do you create a GA4 property? You just do a Google search and there'll be enough from Google support. I recommend when in doubt, when searching, this is a very common mistake people do. They search when they're trying to do something, they'll search and they'll find some blog article and they'll follow that. That's a great way to learn overall about the environment. But when you're actually doing the work, find the support article from Google itself. Each one of these will probably be a Google article associated with that, which will tell you exactly how to do it. So when actually executing for that part, go to the source, the Google support article, right? Some of these are business things. Of course, you'll have to do it independently, business strategy and all, you have to come up with it, right? Like, for example, integrate Google Search Console. Just do a search, how to integrate Google Search Console in GA4. If you cannot find it in the menu, you can do it that way. So some are more mechanical processes versus the otherwise. But each one of them, if you follow this process and step-by-step approach of going through, I can assure you, you will not miss anything. We did do an exhaustive search online of checklists, etc. And you can try on your own also. What we found is most checklists were very basic. They were almost like the differences between GA3 and GA4 kind. Even some of the checklists which people are selling now because of GA4, even they did not have a functional prescriptive approach to building this. So that's how we build our own. Like it says, hey, if we follow this, or our clients will just not miss anything. So this is what we use as a gold standard to make sure that, hey, nothing is missed. Of course, as if GA4 changes, there might be minor tweaks here and changes, but I'm not expecting general stuff to change here in anytime soon. And then just some things in the foundation you'll notice are very basic, but you start going in intermediate, custom events, right? You need to verify your conversion tracking is working. So these are the intermediate, and when we go to advanced, that's what I'm talking about. You could, for now, it's okay. A few other things to point out is because this is a cross-platform tracking. So if you're a client or you own multiple sites, you want them all under the same GTM, especially if you're interested, if they are kind of related businesses and you are interested in the traffic following through one website to the other. GA4 is actually it's pleasure to use when it comes to that kind of stuff. It'll track basically, it came from this website, went to here, you can build your whole funnel. Say you are doing some microsites. to bringing people in. You're doing landing pages. From there, what happens? You can, all of them, if they use the same GTM in all the related domains, you can follow through the whole path. With the events, you can build a complete flow and figure out where things are breaking, right? So those are the basically that's the checklist, which I would say is what you should use if you're not using. At least right now, I can claim that there's no better checklist. I'm pretty sure people will build, even after accessing this, they could add more and do better for sure. And we will keep looking out for that. And our approach will be, we'll keep updating this as we go along. If we find that, hey, something was missed, because as we are practicing this with our clients, we see things, we'll keep adding it, right? So here is a question. Do you guys want this checklist? So how many of you would like to get this checklist? Because I just showed that it's not embedded in the thing. Getting some, let me look at the comments. We're going to run a little experiment. Make it a little bit, yes. Yeah, thank you. I assume that it's like a rhetoric question, right? I know you guys want it, but just want to make sure that you want it. So you got to do, I'm going to ask you to do something very simple to get this checklist. So I'm going to, right here on my screen, I'm going to put down my LinkedIn profile, and I'm going to make a post live right now. And all you have to do is, and yeah, you're welcome to connect with me, but you can just comment without connecting if you don't want to. That's completely, so that's me. The link is here. Chinmay, can you post this link, or should I can post it? So here in the general chat, I'm posting my link. And I'm going to do a live post right now. And by the way, this is a technique you can use if you're doing a webinar. You can absolutely use this technique. One of the things at Kuvare we do is LinkedIn prospecting. So it's a LinkedIn prospecting technique. So I'm going to be making a post right now on LinkedIn. And all you have to do is comment that, yeah, I want this. I would like this checklist. Just make a comment there, and I'll send you through DM directly the checklist. How is that? And you don't have to connect with me for that, but absolutely welcome to connect. If you're working with us, yeah, love to hear from you guys directly. So here is the post. I posted my link, so you can find it. Create a post, and I am ready with the post. So I just finished doing a webinar. I'm almost finished. There is more, by the way. There are more slides. We'll be talking about a few more things. And transition to GA4. The star of the show, even I'll present other stuff, is truly this checklist. So let me know if you want this checklist and how do you plan to use it. If you want to say that, that'd be great too. All right. So here goes the post. And let's see who comments first. So you can use this technique in a webinar, or you can use this by doing a post and sending an email to your email list by saying, hey, I'm giving away this resource free, and I've made a post on LinkedIn. Please comment on that. And that works really well because it does two things. One, you get interaction with the people you were at the webinar or the email list. In addition, you get a little exposure for others to see it. All right, who will be first one to comment? Like is not enough, you got to comment.
Avi, can you post the link to the URL of the post in the?
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. Excellent. What, 8 comments? Thank you. So I'm gonna not
I'll start posting the document. You can proceed with it.
Yeah. So we'll get you guys going. Thank you. And hey, one of you can post like, what do you want to do with this? It'll be even better. But I'm good with this. Like I'm interested that how you're learning, or you're just trying to just, hey, you need to keep up, or you want to use it. All are good. All are good uses. Okay, awesome. Coming back to the presentation. So that was the checklist. I highly, highly recommend for reporting using Google Data Studio. It's not required, but GA4's reporting, because the way they're pushing it is very basic. Anything you want, and if you are an agency working with a client, your clients will love you for that, because this is a value add you're providing for them. Because reminder, GA4 has split analytics into 3 specialized tools. Tag Manager for setup configuration, GA4, we talked about that right earlier. So the Google Data Studio is really this thing. Needed to get the reporting going well, right? So that's why I recommend this. So here's the question. This question will come up either if you are planning to offer this as a service for your clients, or you're a business who wants to hire somebody to set up your GA4 for you. And reminder, if somebody says they set up a GA4 and all they're doing is adding the code to your website and to your tag manager, and because you don't have access or you're not so much into development, that's not GA4 setup. There's a lot more to it, as you saw through the checklist, right? So what is the typical cost? So this is how it works. A basic business is service kind of a business. A typical cost will be $1,000 or more, depending if it is a complex site. A medium complexity e-commerce will be $5,000 plus, because there is a lot to figure out there with the events and the products, etc. Any large corporate or e-commerce site is $10,000. It's not uncommon to see $15,000 to $20,000 for GA4 setup right now, current quotes, actual work done, right? So that gives you a little sense. If you are, and which most of you guys are from the PPC community, or especially for the local businesses ads, those are all, if you're wondering where those businesses fall, most of them are basic service sites. Why it is cheaper for those? The reason is simple. Their actions and events and what is the end goal is very simple. There are only few things to worry about. So that's where it's a simpler setup. 75% of the checklist steps still apply. So it's not like, oh, the steps don't apply. But each one of those steps has a detail of exactly what all to set up. In a basic service business, it's a lot simpler than in the other businesses, right? So, of course, as a PPC agency, we realized GA4 is relevant, and our clients started asking us, can you set up, right? Clients have been saying, can you set this up? Because we do some things related to their website setups and tracking. So we came up with this program. So this is only for qualified local service businesses. Our PPC community, most of it applies, right? because we just don't want to. We don't have enough bandwidth to take any more on this on. So we will do this for $595. And of course, we recommend you, if we are a white label service provider, so which means you should sell it for $1,000 or more. Of course, if you are an Invisible PPC partner, pricing has to be cheaper, as many of you are partners, and it's only $495 per setup. So yeah, that dollar a day PPC partnership is looking good at this point, right? Like you save $100 on this, and almost all services you save at least 100 or more. So, and this is really not, so why we are doing this, especially if you're limiting to smaller number. This is our way to get some of you guys who are not our clients working with us. That's our ulterior motive, simple as that. This is not the business we want to be in. If we do this with for one of your clients, and you might find, okay, these guys are good, they know what they're doing, and they managed to get this, then hopefully you will do more business with us. That's the reason we're doing. Other reasoning is this, that this is a great, if you're trying to get a client, you're trying to land a client, this is the right time to offer this service to them. Because you'll have this material, the slides, the timeline, and everything. You can go and tell them, hey, you got to do this quickly. You sign up with us, we'll take care of it for you. So this is so you could take this and offer this. We're going to do this service only for 10 at this price. And there is a coupon there. The link is active. You now, if you're wondering, I don't have a client right now, we will honor the price even if you get the client later, as long as you paid up for this service. But we cannot say, okay, we signed up and I'm going to come back later, because I said we're just going to do this for only 10 people, 10 businesses only. We just don't want to overextend ourselves, because we'll have enough work with our existing PPC clients. They will want this done also in-house. So we probably focus on those. So if you're not a partner, I mean, this is our one way to get you guys in the community. That's our selfish goal there. All right. So we have 7 minutes there. Let's look through the questions. And Justin and Chinmay, both of you can help me with this, please, and see you can answer to necessary. There's a question about what is the best course in the chat, that what is the best course to learn Google Ads or GA4? There are GA4, we are not planning to offer any course on either Google Ads or GA4 anytime, by the way, because one thing, we have very clear thing in our mind. We want to support the community by enabling them, but we are into the fulfillment business. We want to remain the best PPC implementation company out there. So that's our focus. And these things are to support, because, hey, they need to set up the analytics, so set up. So so all courses we have and things are to help you agency, if you're a new agency owner, to help you grow. But, and we will try to keep all of them almost free or just cover costs if we ever do anything. So I don't know the answer, which will be good Google Ads course. But Jeremy, Chinmay, can you take Jeremy's name down? Because we do have things we put our people through in training, right, when they come on board.
Yeah.
We're happy to share with you those external courses we put them through. And Chin will be the right person to sue. So we train our people in-house. When somebody new comes, has lesser training before they become full-fledged ad specialist, Invisible PPC's ad specialist, before they qualify, they have to go through all that training. So be happy to share that with Jeremy. We'll note this down, Jeremy, and get it out to you. So let's see questions here. Let me get to the right screen. Oh, there is one question about if it's not tracking server side, how does it differentiate between users, tracks or IPs? So this was actually more, I didn't answer that. Yeah, the last discussion. So there are quite a few things we can do on the server side when we say the tracking systems do. One is they match the activity, timing, and what is happening where they're going, and they can connect the dots from that. So there is more to the user behavior which can be tracked at the server level, which allows them to know which person is this, who's making the request. Keep in mind, the server is still sending the request back to the IP, right? So when they say there is no IP, they are not keeping the IP there, but they create a persona ID for that IP. So every time a request comes from that IP, they can connect, oh, it's the same IP, which means this persona. So there is no identifiable IP kept on the server. Instead, the match is continuously made with that IP address. That's what they're doing, basically. Okay. I did not answer what is the default data retention setting. I don't know the answer, but I recommend doing it for team. Data Studio, best way to learn Data Studio is find a template and then you link with that template. Then you play around moving things. That's the fastest way to learn Data Studio. Just take somebody's template. There are many free templates available, including from Google. Just start that template and just go and change that to connect to your account. And then you play around and changing. That's the fastest way. Learn as you go kind of a thing and just make few changes here, there. It's basically a graphic presentation software. So it's not complex. I mean, it is, let me say, it's got so much functionality. As a result, it has got some complexity, but it's not like very difficult. You know, it can be, as you do, in a week's time, you'll go very far if you start with a template. There is a question. I would like to outsource GA4 setup to PPC clients and prospects. Will InvisiblePPC do this service in addition to the standard client setup fee? Yes, we will do that because that will become a requirement soon for clients to have that thing set up. So anything, so we will, yes, we will absolutely do that. If you are our client, you work and you are basically our agency client and your end client needs this, that's the reason we got into this, and that's what we're doing right now. That because our end clients will need it, and then agencies say, hey, this is kind of a technical work like PTC. Can you help us with this? Yes. Newer sites, for simpler sites, if you don't have e-commerce, etc., you can just live with GA4 is fine. You can get all you want for service sites and all through GA4. You don't need to add GA3 if it's a brand new site. But if it's got e-commerce, then I think I'd recommend keep adding GA3 still. So e-commerce will be done for you migration service. So right now we take only one kind of e-commerce clients for PPC, clients who have one or two products. So these are the ones who kind of came up with a fancy mask or fancy hand sanitizer, and that's what they want to sell. Those are the only ones we do PPC for, and there is a reason for that. If you have 100 or 1,000 product e-commerce company, the number of campaigns and the cost is very high. The traditional PPC model will not work. It's a very different kind of service. On the Kuber side of the business, that's our bread and butter. So we have clients spending, right now, actually not that much, but they have spent at the peak $500,000 a month on ads, right? So these are e-commerce businesses. So we do that. So the question here is that, hey, will we do that for GA4? So if it is the kind of the PPC like with one or two products, e-commerce companies, yes, we will do that. But if it is the full e-commerce we don't have that available as a white label. We are keeping our white label services still very, very narrowly and specialized focused on PPC related work. which can be done as a white label. And full e-commerce is a much more involved business. Okay. And then looking through the list, did I cover the questions? And the questions I think I covered.
Avi, one question is, how does it impact incognito mode?
So keep in mind what incognito mode is, and this is a common misconception, that incognito mode, all it means is it does not keep any local data on your computer. No cookies and cache. But anybody trying to track which site you visited, so this might burst the privacy bubble for some of you guys. Every and any site you're visiting, the server knows who you are. There is no way for browser to anonymize your IP when making a request. Right? So it's basically the server has to know the origin of request to send the information back, right? So there is some stuff. So incognito. So in some ways, I would argue with the new system, because there is incognito has no cookies. So if it was any cookie-based tracking, that tracking is gone away. But with incognito, with the event-based tracking server level, it actually will work fine.
And then there was one question, how does GA4 handle goals?
So you still can set goals, etc. Everything is event-based. That's what you need to think about. And other question is the data layer. Sometimes you have to put explicit data. This is more so usually in the e-commerce situations where you have to send data, a lot more data for Google. Will it be possible in GA4? General answer is yes. Exactly how all, Paul, I cannot answer right now. Because for e-commerce, it's essential. There will be special situations as we're dealing with the clients we work with. We always pass some extra stuff. So it has to be parsed. So eventually, yes. So some of the stuff which cannot be done right now, the way it is set up GA4, as it goes forward, no functionality is going away. It's being done differently. So that's the best way to think about it. Okay. And then
how steep is the learning curve for Data Studio?
Yeah, I think I answered that. If you start with a template, in a week's time, you'll get very far.
Then we have question in the chat. Are there third-party Google Data Studio templates we can purchase that are super good for PPC SEO?
Yeah. So when you start searching for, there are many companies selling templates too, third-party templates. And there are, you can even, like you can Upwork and others, you can hire people who will build up templates for you. The big part you need to remember is, and this is a common problem with the setup also. I mean, just think about, you'd want to draw a graph and you want to present nice presentation, but it's not the presentation, it's the content you want in is the challenge. So sometimes by looking at somebody else's presentation, you can figure out what is the content to fill in. So some of the templates will tell you, oh, I should be tracking this and reporting. So you got to know your template needs to be for your business. And I don't mean every business will have individual one, but your type of business at least, right? So in our case, when we do PPC, we have come up with a template. We have found this is the best way to figure out what is working, what is not working for the client and how to report. So that part you have to figure out. By looking at separate templates, all templates we have built is this way, and you can use this technique. If you find 10 templates doing the same thing, you just take all those 10 templates and put it in one template. And you start taking components from different ones till you get what you want. Because they all probably represent data differently and show it differently. And you'll find one is doing this part better, the other is doing different. Because once you get into it, you can learn and you can borrow the technique one from the other. But absolutely, there are packaged available Google Data Studio templates, and there are free ones too. There are some, what is that, Supermetrics. There are some companies who make connectors to connect additional data sources to Google Data Studio. Those companies actually usually provide pretty good free templates too. But then that's their service is the connector you're paying for. Some are $50, $100 a month, depending on how many connectors you want. Because some data connection to Data Studio is not that clean if you're trying to get it from very different sources. Most of the Google to Google connection is very clean. But if you want Google to Facebook, for example, connection in Google Data Studio, so it's not as natively work, it doesn't work as well. So either you need an intermediary where you bring the data to a Google Sheets, and then how to import to make a connection to the Google, that's a useful skill to get, how to connect a sheet to Google Data Studio. Because then you can almost connect a live sheet outside. I'm sorry, I'm getting technical here, but basically the idea is that you will need an intermediate, some pipeline or some way to get the data in. Okay.
All right, Avi, one last question from Anita. She says she has not used UA ever. So should she worry about UA at all, or she's good with GA4?
So if there is a live site, I would be surprised that you have not used UA. But if you're talking about you have not used UA and you're building a brand new site, and as long as it's not an e-commerce, you don't have to worry about UA, you can just go to GA directly. That checklist will completely work fine still. Okay.
I think that is all. That's all the questions we have.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate you guys taking time. This was one of the very well attended, based on the stats we saw, webinars. So I appreciate you guys taking interest in it. And we'll send out emails and all to ask you guys the next few webinars which are coming up and what topics you're interested in. All related to this general universe of small agencies and PPC, etc. Right.
And we'll send out the recording mostly by Monday. By Monday, because last time we said on the weekend, but then we had some issues with the download. So we just want to give you a realistic timeline. So by Monday in email, you'll receive the recording and all the links that you guys asked about. So everything, you'll have all the resources.
Yeah, the links probably you'll receive today or tomorrow, all of them, if not, quickly.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.